Nora, the lead naturalist guide at the Mono Lake Committee, and I'm here today with our Mono Lake moment, celebrating Arbor Day with a little bit of tree identification. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for staying home and also for your support that keeps the committee doing what we do, protecting the lake and bringing you these moments. So we're going to start off with a Geoffrey Pine, Pinus geoffreyi, and this is a common tree in the Eastern Sierra. We have the largest contiguous Geoffrey Pine forest in the world here, just south of Mono Lake. And this tree is really unique because it smells really good. So especially on a warm day or when sun is hitting the bark, although this one smells really good in the shade right now, if you just stick your nose in a crack and breathe deep, you can smell the butterscotch. Some people say it tastes like or smells like vanilla or pineapple. It's a very sweet smell. On a hot day, you can walk into the Geoffrey Pine forest and it smells like someone just baked butterscotch brownies. It's amazing. So you can see the bark is really dark reddish brown, and it has these deep furrows and puzzle piece-like bark pieces that all join together, but they're big blocks of bark. And when you look up into the canopy of a Geoffrey Pine, you can see that the needles are long and they create kind of a big round puffball at the end of each branch. And that can help you identify Geoffrey Pines from afar. But when you look closely at the needles, they have 3 needles per bundle. So the needles are all on all pine trees are bunched together, and it can help you identify which tree you're looking at based on counting the needles. So Geoffrey Pines have 3 long needles, usually 5 to 7 inches long. And then their cones are a pretty large cone, and Geoffrey Pines have a very similar species, they're very similar to ponderosa pines, which mostly grow on the west slope. And you can tell their cones apart in the places where they overlap because Geoffrey Pine cones have a little sharp tip of their scale that points down and underneath the scale. So when you run your hand down a Geoffrey Pine cone, it doesn't hurt you. So we call that a gentle Geoffrey. Whereas ponderosa pines have the spike poking out of the scale, so it's prickly. So prickly ponderosa and gentle Geoffrey. So that's a Geoffrey Pine. We'll go to our next tree, the Lodgepole Pine. This is a lodgepole pine, and its name is Pinus contorta. Even though it looks very straight, underneath the bark, the tree is growing in a kind of twisted way. So once the tree has died and the bark has fallen off, you can really see the twist that gets its name. But lodgepoles have been used to build houses and used for telephone poles because they're so straight. But they have this very unique bark that's light colored. It's typically gray and lightish yellow-brown, and it looks like cornflakes. Just small little pieces of bark that, easily chip off. And the cones of lodgepole pines are very tiny, especially compared to the Geoffrey cones. So they're little, and they have a nice little spiral pattern on the bottom of the cone. Little tiny cones. They also have a unique number of needles in the Eastern Sierra. So lodgepole pines have 2 needles per bundle. And I like to use this to help me remember the name lodgepole pine, because you can turn 2 needles into an L for lodgepole. So we'll move on to our next tree. And although these look like trees, they're actually shrub-like trees, tree-like shrubs. And they're called mountain mahogany, but we're not going to talk too much about them today because it's Arbor Day, not Shrub Day. This is a white fir, Abies concolor. And this is a young tree, so it has much lighter bark. It's very silvery with kind of red furrows. And we'll take you to a larger tree after this. But if you look closely, this tree has one needle that comes straight out of the stems here. So they don't have the same type of bundle structure that pines do. Fir needles just come straight off the bark. With white pines, they have these little white stripes. It can be very hard to see if you're not looking very closely. And then at the base of the needles, they have a little quarter twist. So the needle comes flat, straight down to the stem, and then it twists right at the base. So that's a helpful way to identify a white fir. Another tree that may be confused with white fir is a red fir, which looks very similar. Its bark looks very similar. They still only have one needle, but typically they're a stiffer needle, and if you roll it between your fingers, it's almost rectangular, whereas this one is very flat. So we're going to head up to a larger white fir to show you an up-close look at the bark. These are more white firs. See here this silvery whitish bark with more red-brown furrow, and it's in these long thin lines, so you can really see the pattern going all the way up the trunk. And as the tree gets older, the bark will turn a darker gray. You can also see how a lot more branches are coming out from around the whole trunk of the tree, and they stay on a lot longer than the pines, which will drop their lower branches that don't have foliage on them. Thanks so much for joining us. Those are our 3 trees for the day, and I hope that when you come visit the Eastern Sierra next time, you'll be able to use this video to help you identify these trees, or if you're watching from the Eastern Sierra, you can look outside your window or go on a hike in your backyard and you'll know white fir, Geoffrey pine, and lodgepole pine. Thanks.